This is the ultimate flight in worm tub distillation. How a worm tub works is a really simple affair, really. You have vapors coming from the stills. They go through a tube that is at a cooler temperature than the vapor. That makes it condense back into a liquid form, which will create the spirit that you end up with after distilling. Worm tubs have been around for a really long time. You would have found those on early distillation units for perfume, but then also for spirit, and notably in stills used by bootleggers and by the illicit stills that you would have found in the Highlands and everywhere in Scotland, really. If you look at it on paper, it's the ideal device to create a heavier, meatier spirit, though it's not always used in that way. Ultimately, the final spirit depends on what you feed the worm and how you run the worm tub. If you run it hot and if you run your distillation slow, you will get something that is clean. We'll have some slightly different heavier notes, but it won't be super sulfury or super meaty. If you run it cold and you distill fast, then you get the exact opposite. This collection sort of helps you travel back in time to an era where whiskey was distilled using these condensers. Expect bold, rich and robust flavors. Bottle number 36228. It is 28 years old and has spent about 26 years in a bourbon hogshead before being rehomed to first fill American oak PX hogshead. It exhibits on the nose like all the hallmarks of age and has a tremendous amount of complexity. You will find a slightly heavier style of spirit that just really matches well with the darkness provided by the PX cask, which is much richer in like raisins, dark chocolate, a bit of leather. This is at 47% ABV, which is pretty low considering, but given the age, it's not something that would find abnormal. The flavor doesn't disappoint. Everything's there. It's really well balanced between dark honey, you get some Manuka honey, you get some dried fruits, some baking spices, prunes in Armagnac, like all the hallmarks of age are there, and decadence is there too. Let's move on to our next dram, 76157. It is heavier than our first dram. Also an example of partial triple distillation, although in this case it's a very complex story of how this is achieved. It is achieved by using 5 different stills. In essence, it provides a really punchy, robust distillate that is well known, and I'm not going to say it here, but has like a very well-known name. I prefer to focus on the flavors of this dram. They're pretty much out of this world. It's not something you see very often. Although it's a first fill butt for its entire maturation, first fill sherry butt can be overpowering over time. A bit less than hogsheads, but it can still be. Here, it's not the case at all. You do also get like a really rich influence of the sherry, although it stays moderate. It doesn't overtake the spirit. It's more than double distilled and less than triple distilled. You do get quite a bit of sherry influence, you do get the dried fruits, you do get some meatier aspects of things here with a tiny bit of Serrano ham in the back. The first one was quite easy to start. This one takes a bit more time. Long-term sherry maturation also creates this sort of old wine characteristic that you get in there. So it is really pleasant. This one's a sipper. I think I would probably sit for hours sipping 1 dram of this. So this is number 44190. This is called Unleash the Serpent. You can see there's a bit of a theme in the titles of this trio. In my opinion, this is one of the punchiest worm tub expressions you can find. It is very characterful. It is quite meaty, it is quite sulfury, but it is delicious. With age, I find that worm tub distillers get an incredible complexity that not many distillers can achieve, and not many whiskies can achieve. Combine this with the cask that has matured in, which is a number 4 Char hogshead. You get something that is old, starts from a worm tub distillate that is quite rich, fatty, nutty, and meaty, and you give it a bit of cask char as well to sort of clean out some of the rough edges that this distillate might have. And in this case, you get this absolutely amazing color, and on the nose, absolutely fantastic. It's full of rich vanilla, it's full of baking spices, you get nutmeg, mace. Kept this one for last because regional character in whiskey can be very deceptive. We've seen it over and over again, particularly in single casks, because the cask has an influence, but also a region like Speyside in this case has such wealth of distilleries and ways to distill that you cannot expect every dram to conform to expectations coming from one region as having certain characteristics. This is very much removed from what we would describe as Speyside characteristics. You get bruised apples, so much bruised apples in there. Wow, yeah, that packs a punch. You do get some of the old fruit notes that you would find in aged whiskey. So you would have the prunes, you would have the tobacco, you would have polished wood, and in this case actually bruised apple shisha tobacco somehow, but absolutely delicious. Here's a dram to the old style whiskey making and echoes that can be found in this collection, and I hope you enjoy every drop of it. Slán var.